The rules of eco-driving have substantially changed with the advent and arrival of the hybrid car with its regenerative braking system. The basic philosophy of driving economically is to avoid using the brake pedal. Some people see the brake pedal as working directly for the fuel companies, just wasting the kinetic energy that you've built up. But the regenerative braking system gives you an opportunity to recoup some of that kinetic energy. The energy is stored in the battery where it can be deployed later to pick up pace again or to maintain the car's momentum. The first thing we need to bear in mind with regenerative braking is the brakes now operate in two states. The first state is where the motor that would normally drive the wheels is acting as a generator or alternator, creating a drag on the car, slowing it up. At a point though, you're going to reach the limits of that system and you're going to need the physical brakes to cut in. That is the pads and the rotors, or the pads and the discs, where friction is generated and the car further slows up. The key then to using regenerative braking effectively is to avoid the physical brake operation and to rely on the regenerative action of the motor cutting in to slow up the car. We need to understand that things are not 100%. If you had 100, we measure it in sausages, 100 sausages of kinetic energy going along, and you applied the regenerative braking, you would only capture about 70 sausages worth of that kinetic energy into the battery. And then when the energy is later deployed, you again will lose some of that energy. Mechanical systems are never 100% efficient. It would then be a mistake to think that we can build the car's speed up and use regenerative braking to just avoid losing anything. If the car is slowing up, we are losing some of the energy. So it's best then to anticipate the traffic flow ahead and to try and keep the car moving overall. We also want to avoid that situation where we're braking so hard that the regenerative braking system is unable to provide that level of slowing up and the physical brakes have to cut in. And that again would be a waste of this energy that we've built up. Now, cars are different. Different manufacturers have different philosophies when it comes to deploying the hybrid regenerative braking option. Some manufacturers allow you to set an aggressiveness or a level of regenerative braking, and you can set that according to whether you're driving in town where you're doing a lot of stop-start driving, or you're making long journeys, or if you had a nice run downhill, you go from one city to a town and you know majority of the route is downhill, you might engage in more aggressive regenerative braking. In my car, an Audi A3, I've noticed if I'm in sport mode, regenerative braking happens as soon as I lift off the accelerator. So the accelerator effectively turns into a one pedal operation. If you're pressing the accelerator, the car is moving forward and accelerating, or you're maintaining momentum. And as soon as you lift off, the regenerative effect is cutting in and the car is slowing up. But again, that only happens to a degree. And I would rather do that than rely on the brake, because as soon as you touch the brake pedal, the brake lights come on, and that shouts a massive warning to all of the cars behind you. Or it may cause them to overcompensate with their brakes because they've seen your brake lights come on. Regeneration may be limited if you have reduced road grip, if the battery is cold and it's not as efficient, or the battery is just full. And that's probably another reason why we shouldn't charge the battery fully up. Although you could argue that the battery starts to deplete the minute you drive off, and there's a little bit of space there for the regenerative braking to put a little more power back into the battery. Things haven't changed that much though. We still need to anticipate the flow of traffic ahead. We need to understand the regenerative braking system and accept that it is not going to recoup 100% of the kinetic energy. And we need to use that strategically. When we're driving in town, braking gently over a longer distance is generally better than braking more sharply over a shorter distance. And again, this method of keeping the car moving at all times will aid your overall fuel economy. Please let me know in the comments how your car works, how you deploy the regenerative braking, and how efficient you actually find it in everyday use. If you've enjoyed this video, please boot the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, there's a button here that will enable you to subscribe and you won't miss out on the great video content we've got planned. And I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.